Ladies and gents, I give you the latest Toyota Hilux. Let's have a look at the old girl. And it is an old girl, at least a decade old. It's been retested for NCAP, I think at least once, but that would have run out by now. It did get 5 stars, but a lot's changed in the time since then. And I brought you to an industrial estate. Look, there it is. Because this is where this car's going to see most work. It's a tradies ute. Yes, it can go off-road. Yes, it's got all-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. Yes, it's got a plucky 2.8 turbo diesel, now with 48-volt hybrid technology. It's got all that, and yes, it can tow. The top 10 best-selling cars in Australia consist of utes and SUVs. This used to be the top model, the SR5, but now it's the kind of mid-range model. It's got a couple of little claims to fame. First, a step that you can step on to get to your load, so to speak. Then you can lower the tailgate slowly because there's little struts to help the tailgate go down, and it also gives you one level operation up. But have a look at this shiny, shiny tray. That's going to get messed up pretty quick, smart. But have a look at this, look. One hand. Then we come to the back seats. You can lift the back seats up and get to little spaces underneath. This car doesn't have them fitted, but they always shortchange it in space. There's only, what, a hand's distance between the seat and the seat in front. I'm not even going to try and sit behind a bit, but for those that can fit, there's a couple of vents and some USBs. Once upon a time, the SR5 used to have leather, but now we have fabric, which I think is a little bit strange. While the outside still looks relatively modern, I think the cabin does look a little bit dated. We've got the usual buttons and controls on the dash and on the door, smart start and entry, but you can see the digital dash is only that little tiny bit in the middle. The other two are conventional dials. Steering wheel buttons are just like a normal car. Separate is the smart cruise control. And it does have lane departure by that weird braking on the off wheel. I'll show you that when we get on the highway. I used to always chide Toyota about their cheap clocks. $70,000 almost on the road, and that's all you get. And then I'm comparing this to the Ford Ranger we had recently. That had something like a 14 or 15 inch portrait style tablet. And I noticed in the old SR5s there was heated seats, but I don't seem to have any heated seats here. At least I have dual air conditioning and this kind of small tablet. I'm supposed to have CarPlay as well, wireless, but it doesn't work. I've tried everything to get it working, including checking the settings both in the system and on my phone. And bear in mind, my phone's been connected to other cars' CarPlay. So there's a wireless charger, a place to stand your phone, and a cup holder. There's also a little whatnot tray and this kind of slightly old-fashioned industrial looking gear shifter and the drive modes, etc. Remember, this is a 4-wheel drive, so we've got some 4-wheel drive controls. It does lack the auto 4-wheel drive that we had in the Ford. Manual handbrake. I'm going to have to watch my P's and Q's. You'll see the reversing camera. That's quite small because most of the space is being taken up by the 360-degree view and an announcement telling me to check my surroundings. Well, I would be able to check more of my surroundings if there wasn't a big message telling me to check my surroundings. Now this is a very capable 4-wheel drive. But one of the things that amazes me about this Toyota is that it's variously on the top seller list, if not right at the top of the list. This has been given 48-volt technology to make it a little more fuel efficient. I'm just going to check my figures. I'm down to 9.9 litres per 100 kilometres, but I have been variously a little bit higher than that. So not that fuel efficient. But it is a big old chunk of truck. Because I'm used to using my Google Maps, I find this map very clunky. Steering is nice and light, and I have this in sport mode for a little bit more oomph. It's got sport, normal and eco, plus an idle up button so that when you're on the rough stuff you can just idle over rocks and so forth. Needless to say, I haven't done a lot of idling over rocks. The ride is fairly smooth and the cabin is fairly quiet. We'll see what it's like at speed. We've got blind spot monitor, so we're not completely bereft of little comforts. While we're on the subject of ride, the rear suspension is leaf springs and there's drum brakes as well back there. Now I'm told that's best for towing, leaf springs. And a couple of Utes that have tried to do something different have gotten into trouble, especially with weight. So there are more expensive ways to do it, but apparently leaf springs are the only way to do it if you want to do it on the cheap. So push the button in on the stalk, just getting up to speed, and I press down on it. Now that I can see that I've got my speed set at the speed limit, and I'm just going to change the speedo back to the digital speedo, because frankly these dials are a little bit hard to read. I started to tell you about the yaw assist outside, so that's what Toyota calls their lane control in these cars that don't have electric steering. What that means is, let's just say, I'm not going to do it now, but let's just say I was going over that lane line, that front wheel would brake to bring me back into the lane. Imagine I'm doing 110 kilometers an hour and the car brakes just one wheel, and it's a steering wheel. Wow. I must admit, on the highway it is a very smooth and comfortable vehicle to be driving, but the cabin feels a little bit cramped. This seat is back as far as it'll go, and I find my feet just a little too close to the pedals. I just can't get my legs in the right spot. And all of these Utes suffer from the same thing with the people in the back seat. There's just not enough space there. This Ute is at the end of its lifespan. There is meant to be a new one coming at some stage in the next however long. But Toyota's asking you to buy this now. So we can only compare this against other ones that are currently for sale. So this is 70,000 or 69,000 and some change on the road to drive away. For that kind of money, I could get, for example, the GWM. I'll put a link to that in the comments. Now, that one for the same price, I'm just going to lower this. There we go. For that price, you get this really nifty dual action tailgate, so it opens in two halves or down, and it's much, much lighter and it didn't need assistance. You get a plug-in hybrid petrol drive, turbo petrol drivetrain that was very economical and did 180 kilometers just in EV only mode. Let's not kid ourselves, most of these Utes are going to be used for city duty. They make them tough as nails, and Hilux has a well-deserved reputation for being super tough. But what's the point of being super tough if the most taxing thing you ever do is a driveway? So to wrap up, the Hilux doesn't feel quite as well sorted as the Ranger. It doesn't even feel as well sorted as the GWM. The GWM offers heated and cooled seats. And I'll check the Ranger specs for around this price and see what that gets you as well. But this doesn't even have heated seats. The GWM offers a plug-in hybrid for less money. I don't know if the GWM is as sturdy because it isn't as old as this model, as this has proven itself. The Ford has a 10-speed automatic gearbox. This automatic is nice and smooth, it's just short a few cogs. So I find myself feeling not as impressed as perhaps I could have been. That's it for the Toyota Hilux SR5 and the Toyota Hilux range. As always, hit like, leave a comment, and on the little round thing to subscribe.